Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, theFellowKGB. You can follow me on Twitter at theFellowKGB, and I'm joined this morning by theFellowJGM, Jesse Meineke. We're going to be talking over the player prop bets on DK SportsBook. So we got a lot of things to look into. We'll kind of look at some of the matchups that we're picking on. We'll go over pretty much everything on the DK SportsBook for the NFL slate in terms of rushing yards, receiving props, touchdown props. We have a good history on the fantasy website too. So if you check the link below, we're going to have our player prop bets. We'll list probably our top 5 or 6 favorite ones after the show, and let's win some money this week. But anyways, good morning, Jesse. Welcome to the show.
Let's win some money. Week 11.
What do we got going on today?
Cooking in the pot. My mom's coming to visit. That's what's cooking.
Okay.
So we got a
really college football slate today. There's a couple good games here. We got some top teams playing each other, so I'll probably be watching that Ohio State game in a little bit.
Yes.
The Northwestern's a pretty good one at 2:30 today.
If you have a DK Sportsbook, you got an email 50% boost on any college football bet. So I went crazy and I did a 10-team money line parlay. Let's get crazy.
I did see on DraftKings too. They did have an NFL one where if you do a 5+ leg parlay, you just one wrong, you get everything back. So there's some good betting. But we're going to hop into a screen share here, and I want to pull up some of the things that we've been doing on the fantasyfellowship.com. Let's take a look at that real quick here, because we've been keeping our stats for these player prop bets over the season so far. And on the moment right now, we're above 50%. We're 30-51 on just straight up over-under props. We're 28 for 47, which is almost 60%. And then lately, we've been doing these risky touchdown props that have really good odds, really good returns. We're 2 of 4. We hit one the week before. We didn't hit Josh Reynolds last weekend, but before Jesse did hit Gabriel Davis plus 550. That was a pretty good toss there. And then I did hit Albert Okwuegbunam versus Los Angeles Chargers a couple weeks back. So we'll put a few things up there. We do highlight everything in red and green so you guys can see how we're doing. But for this weekend, we're going to first start the show off and just look at we're basically wanting to pick on matchups. So we're going to look at the teams that allow the most passing yards, the most rushing yards, and the most receiving yards. And then we'll probably highlight the tight end spots too here. But teams that we want to pick on that allow the most passing yards, of course, Seattle, they already played. But they actually played pretty well here. So we have to keep an eye on that and see if that's a trend going forward. Seattle actually looked pretty stingy against Kyler Murray. They brought some pressure to him. But other than that, you got the Atlanta Falcons allowing almost 3,000 passing yards so far this year. The New York Giants are a team to pick on for yards. Carolina Panthers are a team to pick on. And I guess the Cardinals here too. So we'll just throw in the Jaguars. So those are some of the teams that we'll be looking at for those numbers. So I guess as we're talking about the quarterback numbers, let's just take a look at the over-unders for some of the passing yards this weekend. We do have a weather situation in Cleveland that's probably going to make us lean heavy into our favorite prop bet of the year, Baker Mayfield under passing yards. So let's take a look at these passing yards here on the DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll start with Jake Luton and Ben Roethlisberger here. This one's in Jacksonville. Do you care about this one at all, Jesse? We got 274.5 for Ben Roethlisberger. Jake Luton, 227.
Yeah, we got an undefeated team against a one-win team. This is a situation where Ben could just get up real quick and they could rely on the run game. But, Ben's been hot. Last week was a good game. He's actually throwing a lot of touchdowns. His yardage isn't actually crazy on the year, but he's getting those touchdowns. So just being efficient. I don't know if I love the numbers. Jake Luton might need to play some catch up. You can tell that one's been bet a little bit.
Yeah, he's at plus 134 here. That's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and we've talked about in other episodes that the Steelers actually give up yards to the receivers. Receivers actually can do some damage in fantasy against them, so you shouldn't be afraid to start your receivers against them. So DJ Chark's probably a good play this week, but I don't know if I love Jake Luton though. I don't think I've seen enough to be I feel confident throwing down on Jake Luton.
So I'm going to pull up the Steelers just passing yards here, players that they've been playing against lately. So Joe Burrow, they held him under 213. Garrett Gilbert, 243. Lamar Jackson, 208. Ryan Tannehill, 220. At this point, we'll probably stay away from Jake Luton. and maybe we'll pick on some of the receivers. I do think DJ Chark, I was looking at it on my show earlier this week. The Steelers do have like a body type of receiver that does well against them. So we'll get to that in a little bit when we look at the receivers. But I did want to just pull up here the Jaguars against the quarterbacks. They've allowed some pretty massive yardage days. So last week, Aaron Rodgers 325, Deshaun Watson 281, Justin Herbert 347. Stafford was the low point here at 223, and then Deshaun Watson 259, Joe Burrow 300. Just a lot of overs here, and if they're putting Ben Roethlisberger at 274.5, I mean, right now he's got three stud. That might be one of the best starting trios of wide receivers right now. Everything's rolling. You also get Eric Ebron added to that too, and then the running backs catch passes too. So 274.5 seems interesting to me. I did want to just pull up Ben Roethlisberger's numbers on the season so far because he's got that weird efficiency where they're almost just too efficient, and he doesn't get to rack up the yards, but he'll get the touchdowns.
It's a very balanced offense this year for sure.
So, but the last 2 weeks, 333. And
yeah, he's been put. So maybe he's heating up. I mean, this might be, just continue the ways. So yeah, so he didn't hit that number outside of these last 2 weeks, but
I think I'm just gonna click on it and we'll put it in our queue, and we can decide on that one later. Right now, but I mean, undefeated Steelers going to Jacksonville. That one seems like it should be a bonanza with all the health. All the receivers are healthy too, so we don't have to worry about that. But we'll move on here to we're waiting on the Falcons and the Saints. They got to figure out who they're playing at quarterback here. We have a pretty good idea of who it's going to be, but we're kind of just waiting for them to get the updates in there for their bets. So Matt Ryan at 285.5. Are you interested in the Atlanta side of this for passing numbers?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Ryan stacks in DFS this week, especially with Ridley coming back. Ridley coming back opens that offense up a lot. So I could definitely see this being a fun little game. I know New Orleans, who knows what they're going to try and do, but if Atlanta gets up, they're going to have to try and play catch up.
So Matt Ryan, the line is at 285.5, and just on the season so far, the last few games, he's at 284, 281.
And those are without Ridley as well.
He had a game and a half maybe with Carolina. That game was a rain game too, if you guys remember that. I think it was Thursday Night Football. The Broncos game, they were kind of just on coast. They didn't really need to put the foot on the neck there. But before that, 338, 371. So they're kind of right at the sweet spot there. So I could see Matt Ryan having some success. I want to see what he did against the Saints last year. So week 13, he goes for 312 yards. Week 10, 182. I don't really have any confidence in that. That's kind of a wide range of spectrum there.
If you look at that game, I believe that was a weird game. I think they had like a defensive touchdown. Their running backs kind of took over, which is kind of an anomaly.
Okay, so they won in this game. He throws for 182 to win. Okay, so that one was a game where they probably just got the Saints at a really funky time, and things just happened for them on both sides of the ball. But I might be interested in this Matt Ryan over here. But I think I'm going to be more intrigued to see what the Calvin Ridley and the Julio Jones, the Hayden Hurst lines. So we'll look at those a little bit more closely. But then looking at the Titans and the Baltimore Ravens, this is probably one of my favorite noon games. Both teams are 6-3, and right now the Ravens hold the 7th seed. Titans are outside of the playoffs at 6-3. There's 9 teams in the AFC that are 6-3 or better. So this one, the loser moves to 6-4. Outside in on the playoffs, it's got a lot of playoff implications here.
Lamar's got to be angry right now, right? I mean, he's angry. And there's no way outside of that.
So let's just pull up Lamar Jackson and see what he's been up to the last few weeks. It seems like he's kind of heating up in the passing categories. So his line was his over/under is 219.5, and the last game 249 against New England, 170, 208. So he's starting to hit some almost around 200s. We do have a really good matchup against the Titans. They do allow a good amount of points to the quarterback here. Let's just look at that real quick.
I'm kind of expecting the Ravens to establish dominance this game. I can go into a little bit about that. The left side of their offensive line is out, so that makes me kind of I'm kind of dinging the offense as a whole in Tennessee. So I think the Ravens they can smell some blood this week.
So the Titans are one of the worst teams against the passing yards here. They are the 7th worst team, about 2,500 yards total here in 9 games. They do allow a good amount of touchdowns here. You see the 20 touchdowns. That might be top 5 in the league here. So, yeah, they're the 3rd worst team against the touchdowns. this could be a really good game for Lamar Jackson. And I'm expecting a really good game for Mark Andrews. I think I'm going to talk about him later when we get to the tight ends. But I don't know. I'm interested in Lamar Jackson. I don't know if I feel comfortable betting on it. Ryan Tannehill has a tough matchup against the Ravens defense, so I'm probably not leaning into that. I'm probably going to see a huge Derrick Henry workload. If you remember, Damian Harris got up to 22 carries against the Ravens' run game was kind of exposed last weekend against the Patriots. And I think they're going to probably bash with Derrick Henry there. But interested in Lamar Jackson. We'll look at him in a little bit later. Moving on to the Eagles and the Browns. Are we hitting the Baker under at 222.5?
Absolutely, yes. This is going to be Nick Chubb's second game back. We're expecting heavy rain throughout this game. The wind shouldn't be too bad, so it really might not affect the trajectory of the ball. But more or less, it becomes harder to catch the ball during heavy rain. So, give it to me.
We're pulling up the weather for Sunday here. So, rain likely, high 46, winds 10 to 15 miles per hour, chance of rain, 100%. It's going to happen. Let me just pull up the hourly and see when we're going to be expecting that to happen. So, kickoff's at noon. It's going to be raining pretty much the entire day in Cleveland there, so it does not look like it's going to be a fun, clean game. And I think the last 2 or 3 games the Cleveland Browns have played in subpar weather. So we're going to see Baker Mayfield. I just want to pull up his numbers real quick too. He's been one of our favorite under bets for passing yards. We usually like to bet the over on players. We're optimists over here. But Baker Mayfield had a really rough season throwing the football. They don't really allow him to kind of wing it like they were doing last year. And we see the under is 222.5 last week, 132 against Las Vegas, 122. And these games, both home games, both awful weather games. So we're looking at a pretty good opportunity here to make some money on the Baker Mayfield under. We can guarantee that this one's going to be on the website, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yep. I got that one already locked in.
All right, we'll have to lock that in before it gets – people are probably going to continue to bet that as more people are aware that the weather is going to be what it is. So if you can lock that in earlier, do it. And then let's move on to, I guess, Carson Wentz. I mean, if we're betting the Baker under in this one, Carson Wentz at 244.5. I think we were excited about his over last week, and we didn't hit it. That was one of our few rare quarterback misses. Mm-hmm. But at 244.5 in last week in a good game, basically the last 2 weeks he's really struggled to throw the football. 208 yards against the Giants and 123 against the Cowboys here. So are we interested in double down on the unders in this game? Did I lose you, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little intrigued for sure with the weather situation. Carson is just a weird situation. Hello? You got me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you see me?
Hello?
Can you see me?
Yeah, we're okay. It's a little glitchy. We'll fight through it here. I'll talk a little bit about Carson Wentz, 244.5. I do like his receivers are getting healthier.
I'm just very slow.
A little choppy. But Carson Wentz at 244.5. Like we just said, he hasn't thrown for over the last 2 games.
Okay.
122.
I think I just kicked my just low down.
We're just having some technical difficulties at the moment here. So we're kind of into this game's going to be a heavy rain game. I do think if we're feeling the Baker under, we might as well do the Carson Wentz under. So I'm going to check it. We'll move on here to the Bengals and the Washington football team. We got Alex Smith at 269.5. You got Joe Burrow, 275.5. This game, Washington football team, they got a really good front seven. We just saw Joe Burrow kind of get harassed by the Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush last weekend and their good front seven. So I'm kind of wondering if Joe Burrow struggles on this one again. I'm not really feeling the Cincinnati offense in this game. And then Alex Smith, just the way he's been playing lately, I'm kind of intrigued. He did throw for 390 yards last week, so that's really interesting. We're going to get Jesse back in the stream here. That looked like a much better connection, sir. You coming in? All right, yeah, we're good.
I think what happens for some reason, that was a huge delay. So you started getting all my comments and my crazy waviness like 30 seconds late, and I was like, oh crap.
That's all right. But I kind of moved on here. I did say that I'm gonna check the Carson Wentz under here. If we do like Baker Mayfield under, we should be interested in Carson Wentz under. And if that game's going to be raining the entire day, I'm worried about field conditions. I'm just worried about pretty much everything in that game being under, except for maybe rushing attempts and stuff like that. So I started looking at the Bengals and the Washington football team here. I'm not really excited about Joe Burrow going up against the Washington football team. They are pretty good in the pass rush department. Steelers kind of just took apart Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense last weekend. So I was pulling up Alex Smith. They got him at 269.5. And the last two games, Alex Smith, 390 yards, 325. You got an interesting range here because in week 9, he only throws the ball 32 times, 24 completions, and he's hitting 325, this is a great recipe. And then you see last weekend against Detroit, 55 attempts, 38 total completions, and 390 yards. So he was kind of dinking and dunking last week for a lot of attempts. And then the week before, you kind of get this good range where that's the sweet spot. You want to have Alex Smith maybe throw the ball 30-some times. So I'm kind of interested here at 269.5. Any thoughts on the Washington football passing game?
Yeah, I think I like that number as well. The recipe for Washington is to try to run the ball, but they've been down the last 2 games early, and when that happens, they throw J.D. McKissic in. He gets 100 million targets, and Alex Smith racks up yards slowly but steadily. That's just how he does it. In Kansas City, that's how he did it. He always had pretty good yardage totals, just on this volume alone. Look at that. It's pretty good. Cincinnati can score the ball, so I'm thinking this game should be somewhat close again. I see no reason why there shouldn't be the pass attempts.
So I'm just looking at the total touchdowns allowed to the quarterbacks. Cincinnati is giving up the second most touchdowns here on 21 total so far this season. So it could be. I've been kind of plugging in Alex Smith in some DraftKings lineups. I think it's a really good spot. We'll get to Terry McLaurin later, but I'm kind of feeling the Washington football team this week, and it's been a weird week because I've been recommending Washington defense. Of course, you're recommending Gibson, McLaurin. And probably McKissic's a must-start at this point in PPR leagues. But Washington's got some really good things on offense brewing right now. And the Bengals do allow a good amount of receiving or passing yards here. So the number was 269.5, right? So Roethlisberger put up 333 last week. Ryan Tannehill, this is a low-volume offense. They put up 233. And then if Baker Mayfield can hit 297 and Philip Rivers 371, what?
Yep.
Look at these two guys. I think this is a good spot for Alex Smith to hit over here. So I'm interested in it. I'm going to check it. But we're getting to a point where we got a lot of quarterback numbers here that we kind of like.
Yeah, I think so. I think I like the Alex Smith one better than the Roethlisberger line. And then if you're going to ask me to take one under, it's going to be Baker. So, there's some things to.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Because we need to condense our thoughts here. We're trying to only put about 5 or 6 total bets on the website this weekend. So at the moment, we're big fans of the Baker under, and we're kind of into the Washington football team over here. That could be a really good spot for Alex Smith. Moving on to the Patriots and the Houston Texans. Any interest here in Deshaun Watson and Cam Newton? They got a high number here for Watson, 277.5. Cam Newton, 215.5. I don't have any confidence in Cam Newton being able to accurately project him to be over or under.
No,
like to avoid this game as a whole. I think it's going to be a huge running game. The Texans, one of the worst teams against the running backs. Cam Newton, I don't know how many times he's been over this 215.5, so I think I'm okay with brushing over this passing numbers here. You got Tua Tagovailoa, 227.5. Any interest in the Dolphins quarterback against the Broncos?
I was looking at Tua this morning, and I kind of like what I'm seeing against this Denver Broncos units. Though, they just don't have the running backs to really put a huge ground game into the works, especially with Gaskin out. So Tua's got to be able to do it. And I don't know. I'm definitely interested.
So they've had teams have had success against them in the past. Matt Ryan, 284. Herbert, 278. Pat Mahomes, 200. They kind of just shellacked that team, and they didn't need to throw the ball that much. Only 23 attempts from Mahomes, so he could have got to that over there. Cam Newton, 157. Sam Darnold, 230. Tom Brady, 297. Roethlisberger, 311. Tannehill, 249. So Tua Tagovailoa chilling at a low number here of 227.
These passing yards are definitely interesting this week.
Yeah, I want to pull up his numbers from the last few games here. I think he's been flirting around that average. So 169 last weekend, 248 the week before. It's kind of a risky gamble. We don't have enough information on him yet being a quarterback. I think this is one I'm going to watch. I'm not going to bet on it, but if he has some good numbers this weekend, we should be interested in him going forward. So Jets, Chargers, Justin Herbert's been a pretty popular over pick for us, 277.5. Joe Flacco at 240.5. Any interest here in the Jets Chargers game or any good ideas on how this game's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I know you got some little wacko for Flacco-ness in you, but this game just feels like a game that, it should go by books. The Chargers should take care of business. It's the Jets. But
the last few games here, Cam Newton, 274 yards. Patrick Mahomes, 416. That's all against the Jets. So Pat Mahomes, 416. Josh Allen, 307. Fitzpatrick and Tua combined for 200. Kyler Murray, 380. So there has been some recent success on this number. And Justin Herbert at 277.5. Let's just pull up his numbers lately. He's been one of the best throwers on the season already. And
his haircut, does that affect the trajectory of the ball?
I think he's probably gonna drop back a little quicker, being out of his pocket in a little bit more aerodynamic. But I like that. But last weekend was his worst game. Miami defense has been one of the hottest teams in the league lately. So 187, that's his worst outage of the season. But before that, 326, 278, 347, 264 wouldn't have cut it. So that was his other worst game here. But at 277.5, he only had two career games under this number out of 8 games. So I'm kind of interested in the over here, but that one could get out of hand here where we see a lot of Kalen Ballage. I'm not really sure if I feel comfortable in it. I think I'd rather move on to something else.
Yeah.
Packers Colts. This one's got a lot of meaning for the both of us. Jesse being a Colts fan, me being a Packers fan. I'm nervous about this one because Phillip Rivers destroyed these guys last year, and Phillip Rivers didn't have a game like a quarterback stat game where it was just like, wow. But the way he was able to just call the game, they had a lot of good rushing attempts. They were able to trick Green Bay a lot of times into thinking they're running, and then Phillip Rivers would just kind of wheel around and just have this wide open play. He had a really good feeling on what was going on with the Packers defense. So I'm a little bit nervous about Phillip Rivers. He's coming off one of his best games of the season against the Tennessee Titans at 270.5 here. Do you think Phillip Rivers can hit his over?
The crazy thing about Rivers is if he hits that over, he could do it with less than 270 air yards because he could do it through the running backs at tight ends, just kind of get Hines in space, set up some screens, get Michael Pittman the ball on the screen, let him run it, the little Keenan Allen style. So this could be kind of like one of those games where he just kind of, like you said, he sets up these little trick plays, little dink and dunks, let him rack up 10, 15 yards after the catch. So it's one of those things where you could see it happening, but you trust, the process to get there.
For me, this number is too high. I almost want to bet the under on this one. Phillip Rivers at 270.5. He's only been over that number 1, 2, 3 times all season. And the thing about the Packers defense, it's what we call a funnel defense. And against the quarterback here, they're one of the better teams in terms of total fantasy points to the quarterback here. So let me just filter this real quick. And we're going to see here that the Packers are down here on the list. Let's see. Where did they go? Packers go.
You've filtered by least, so they're up at 6.
Oh, yep. So they're the 6th best team against the quarterbacks here. They're allowing 2,171 yards on the season so far. Let me just do the math real quick and divide that by 9 games. So that's 241 yards per game. So they're one of the better passing units. They did get Jair Alexander and Kevin King, their starting cornerbacks, are both back in this one.
Yep.
So I think if you're going to attack the Packers, you're going to see a lot of Naheem Hines. You're going to see a lot of hopefully Jonathan Taylor in this one. And then I think they can take advantage of them kind of in the middle of the field with the Packers linebackers being a weakness. So maybe it's a big tight end game. Maybe it's a big, like we said, the rookie receiver there, Michael Pittman Jr.
What's weird with the Packers is they're good against receivers. They're pretty good against tight ends, surprisingly. They're really bad against running backs. So it's you can see the Colts have the kind of unit built to have success against this Packer defense. It's just hard to trust hitting overs on running back receiving yards.
Yep. So I think at the moment right now, I'm probably avoiding this Packers-Colts game. It's like Rodgers at 278.5, even though we love what Rodgers has been doing with this offense lately. Marquez Valdes-Scantling's kicking it around. Alan Lazard's probably playing in this one. Devontae Adams got the clearance with his ankle injury. Colts are the best defense against the quarterback right now.
Also, just, as being fans of these teams, I kind of just want to be able to enjoy this one without like having anything on the line. There's already enough on the line with, 90% of my friends being Packer fans. So,
but the Colts, number one team in yards allowed to the quarterback. That's 19-16. Let me divide that real quick by the total of 9 games. So the Colts are allowing 212.8 passing yards per game here. I'm interested to see what Rodgers can do, but I don't think I'm going to dive into this for the quarterback over-unders here. Moving on to the Cowboys and the Vikings. This one's actually got me excited here. I think this one could be one of the more fantasy fun games of the afternoon slate. You got Kirk Cousins at 237.5, Andy Dalton 252.5. Any ideas here? Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson lately. He's been playing really good football for a rookie receiver. And at 237.5 going against the Cowboys, we've been wanting to pick on the Cowboys all season. So
yes, we have.
There.
Yeah, actually, I think I like Kirk this week a little bit. I picked him up in one league. He's having success. Cook's, people got to focus in on Cook, which just opens everything up. And the Cowboys just, they're one of those teams that's just like not really doing a lot for you. So
last week, Kirk Cousins going against a much better defense in the Chicago Bears goes for 292, 2 touchdowns. And the week before against Detroit, they didn't. I mean, they kept his passing volume really low in weeks 8 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
Games where he throws the ball, almost more than 30 times, he's going to hit that 237.5. So that one seems alarmingly low to me.
Yeah. So do you think they go back to the well on Cook this week, or do you think they kind of come with that balanced approach? Are the Cowboys able to put up the points that they need to kind of keep them throwing the ball?
I'm interested in the Cowboys because, one, they're coming off a bye. Andy Dalton is going to be starting, and Ezekiel Elliott had the hamstring injury before, and now he's 100%. He's been practicing in full all week. So you might see, I think the Cowboys, knowing that they're, a half game out of the NFC East, feeling like, hey, our reset button, like we have an opportunity here to beat the Vikings. They can throw the ball around. They can establish the run with Zeke. I do think the Cowboys have a chance on this one. So I think it's going to be a competitive game. I'm excited to see Cook versus Ezekiel Elliott. You got tons of receiving options in this one. And both quarterbacks, they need to kind of save the season for the team. So both teams have a lot to play for. I think it could be a fun game here. If I had to take one, I think I'm going to take the Kirk Cousins over at 237.5. But I'm probably not feeling super confident in that one. So we'll move on to the Rams and the Buccaneers here. This is Monday Night Football. I don't know if I feel confident in this one much either because both teams have really good defenses. They got Tom Brady at 300.5 yards against the Rams defense.
Yeah, my body wants a shootout in this game, but my mind's trying to taper back expectations. I just want to see that Tampa Bay, they're 3 weeks into Antonio Brown now. I want to see Godwin's healthy. Evans is healthy. I want to see that team fully unleashed. Last week, they could have dropped probably 60 points. And, there were a couple mistakes, and they still put up 40 some odd points, 46 or whatever. So I'm kind of excited for that game on Monday Night Football. But, we can let that simmer. It's Monday Night Football, right?
Yeah, so I just want to throw this out there. The Rams defense has only allowed one 300-yard passer all season. They got Tom Brady chilling at 300.5. That might be one that we pick on. And then Jared Goff at 279.5. I have a feeling, remember when Jared Goff played the Miami Dolphins? And then do you remember when Tampa Bay played Aaron Rodgers? What happened? What's the common denominator in both those games?
Yeah.
They got to the quarterback.
Yep.
And the best offensive lineman for the Rams is probably out for the year, right? I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, he's done.
I'm nervous about Jared Goff when it's really easy to get to Jared Goff and rattle him. You have to get pressure on him early in the game, and then that's how things start to unravel for the Rams. So I think Tampa Bay has the defense to really frustrate Jared Goff in the passing game. So I'm leaning towards both unders being a play here. I think this could be kind of an old school defensive battle where they're just picking on Godwin and Antonio Brown and kind of dinking and dunking and just trying to pound the ball with the running backs in this one.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of passing numbers here. We're going to look over at the receiving yards. I did want to just point out, let's look at some of the teams that have allowed the most yards to the receivers real quick. And we'll see if we can pick on some of those guys. So filtering by total yards, we did say Seattle was one of the worst teams here. They had a pretty good game last weekend, so we'll see what happens next week. But Atlanta going up against the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if anyone feels super confident in the Saints passing options this weekend, but the Falcons have been one of the worst teams against the receivers. The Titans, one of the worst teams against the receivers. We don't have a lot of confidence in the Baltimore receivers as well, but Willie Snead's coming on. Sometimes it takes Marquise Brown just one play to hit his over. You got the Cardinals here, who we just saw on Thursday Night Football. You got the Jets going up against the Justin Herbert Chargers here, so we might be interested in some Keenan Allen, Mike Williams action, and then the New York Giants here, one of the easier teams to pick on for yards, but they are on bye.
They're on a bye.
And then I guess the Miami Dolphins too, as good as we think they are as a defense, they have been allowing some decent yards here too. So we'll be interested in some of those. The Jaguars are here too. So let's take a look at that the receiving overs here. Starting with the Steelers and the Jacksonville Jaguars, we were interested in the Ben Roethlisberger over here. So for receivers, you got Chase Claypool, 45.5. What?
Seems low.
Juju Smith-Schuster, 59.5. Deontay Johnson, 59.5. Which one do you like the best?
I mean, at this point, it's just give me the lowest total, right?
45.5. What? So let's just look at what Claypool's been up to. He's having a pretty good year, if you haven't heard.
Yeah.
Last week, 56 yards. The week before, 69, 42, a -2 here out of nowhere.
Weird game.
88. More often than not, he's hitting that number there. So at 45.5, people have been betting into this one at -134. Does that sway you from wanting to dive into that?
134 is not a terrible line. I don't know if it's like my most comfortable bet, but there's some mid conviction on that.
So because we're looking at this game, we're into the Steelers options, but because the Steelers do give up a decent amount of points to the wide receiver here, I just want to show you the mold of receivers that have been having success. So you see Darius Slayton here put up 102 yards and 2 touchdowns against them back in week 1. Cortland Sutton did go pretty good here, 3 for 66. Jerry Jeudy also had 62 yards on that one. Randall Cobb with 95 yards here, so that's a little bit more slender, quicker receiver. Will Fuller, again, 54 yards. So you're seeing these bigger receivers here. 54 for Will Fuller. You're seeing 66 for Cortland Sutton, 102 for Darius Slayton. Then you got Travis Fulgham at 152. Keep going down. A.J. Brown goes off for 153. Willie Snead out of nowhere with 106. And then you got CeeDee Lamb, 71. T. Higgins, 115. So the body types that are working here are those big prototypical outside receivers. And then you get these Willie Sneads, you get these Randall Cobbs, you get these little Fulgham types that can have success. So the Jaguars have 2 guys that fit that mold perfectly with DJ Chark and Keelan Cole. Any thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, I think if I'm betting this game receiving yards, I'm looking on that side of the ball. Expect the Jaguars to be down. DJ Chark, I mean, that's a pretty low number for a number 1 receiver. He hasn't had a lot of success recently, but he's a guy you just keep going back to him. He's gonna pay off.
And he hasn't really been healthy lately. He did practice in full this week. I didn't see him on the injury report at all. So at 54.5, he goes up against Green Bay, puts up 56, 146 against Houston. I don't know what happened in this Jacksonville game when he goes 1 for 26, but then a 45, a 16. So I think this is where he was kind of dinged up and hurt. But he started off the season pretty well, 84 for 95. But none of these have been with Jake Luton. I think just the last 2 games have been with Jake Luton. So he's been over both times with Jake Luton at the quarterback. So
he's got 2 in a row.
We should probably click on that and consider that for tomorrow.
I like that. I like that line a lot.
So again, as far as Steelers receivers, this one, Chase Claypool is being bet up a little bit here. I love Deontay Johnson's game. Juju Smith-Schuster continues to get the targets here at 59.5. Let's just take a quick look and see what Juju's been doing lately. Where is Mr. Juju?
Yeah, again, I think Ben is he's so efficient. He's finding the open guy, and they're all going to be open at different times. It's like just who's going to be open this week? Who's going to be,
He's been over in 4 straight games. And the common denominator, or the thing that I'm seeing here, is earlier in the year, the targets were really low. Only 1 game of 8 targets. And then the last 4 games, you see 14, 8, 7, and 13. So there's been kind of a restructure or refocus to get Juju more targets. It's been over 59.5. Sometimes the rookie receivers, they have bad games. We've seen a couple from Chase Claypool. We like to watch him for fantasy purposes. But I think as far as the comfort level, Juju Smith-Schuster he just needs 60 yards. And if he's going to get 10 targets in this one, he's going to hit that.
all right, Juju.
So I'm going to click on Mr. Smith-Schuster. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints game. I think we're just going to skip the Saints receivers for now, and we're just going to talk about the guys on the Atlanta Falcons. You got Calvin Ridley, 59.5 here. You got Julio Jones at 80.5. Hayden Hurst, 38.5. Any interest in these the main pieces for the Falcons offense?
Yeah, you can see everyone likes these overs this week with the Falcons. I don't know if there's one of those the Calvin Ridley looks kind of nice at 59.5, but he's first game back. What are we going to see? How healthy is he truly?
Let's just pull up Calvin Ridley versus the Saints. It looks like 3 out of 4 games he's been going to Boomtown here. So 91 yards last year in November. Another game in November, only 28 yards. But then his rookie season, 93 and 146. This looks like a pretty good spot for Calvin Ridley. We know Julio Jones is probably going to get Marshawn Lattimore in this one. And I don't know. If Ridley's he practiced all week, no setbacks, I think I wouldn't be afraid to kind of go back into Julio or to Calvin Ridley, because he's one of those players that can get a 60-yard play in one play. Mm-hmm. And 59.5, people have been betting into it, 132. It feels pretty safe. I don't know if I like the odds for it, though. I think I'd rather take Juju Smith-Schuster at 59.5 with the minus 112.
I think that's a fair play as well.
So then if we like the Atlanta options here, do we just go back to Matt Ryan over?
Yeah, that's from the beginning, kind of talked about how we like Matt Ryan. He's been throwing up these big yardage games.
285.5.
So then it's like looking at the line, do you like the Matt Ryan over? Or there's some of the other overs we like better?
All right, we got this random guy named Andrew Bauer chiming in here, taking the over on Calvin Ridley. Good morning, Andrew. How's it going, buddy?
Good morning.
We'll see, man. You got a good spot with Calvin Ridley this week. We're just looking at Matt Ryan. So this is the website StatMuse here. You just type in the player's name. You can type in who they're playing, and I just type in the word game logs, and we'll see what Matt Ryan's been up to against the Saints. So last year he goes off for 312. The game here where he goes for 182, they won that game 26-9 here, so they didn't need him to throw the ball. I think he could have if they needed him to. And then if you just look at the history of what Matt Ryan's done against the Saints, 377, 374, 288. The 221 would have been a bad one here, but then 331, you see 240. For the most part, this dude's just hammering the Saints with yards.
Yeah. It's got a good history. History's on our sides. For
looking
sure.
at that, and 285 is high, but you also have to wonder, the Saints, if it is Taysom Hill, are they sucking a lot of time out of this and winning the time of possession and just running the ball and just making the hot offense of the Falcons stay on the sideline? Is that another thing that we have to think about?
Yeah, you have to think about what's Sean Payton. He's going to come with a game plan. He's going to have a set plan. He's going to use it.
And this one's in New Orleans. I know they have been allowing a small amount of fans in there, but I don't really have a good read on this game as a whole, just because we don't know what's going on with the quarterback situation for New Orleans. I'm probably just going to enjoy this one on TV, and we'll see. I guess I'm still interested in Calvin Ridley over here. It's minus 132. Just out of curiosity, just if you put $25 on Calvin Ridley, it doesn't tell me. Here, go to singles. You put $25 on Calvin Ridley, you're gonna win. Looks like $19 here. So not a bad odd, actually.
If I'm coming to this game for a prop, it's gonna be that TD prop for Mr. Taysom Hill.
We'll get to that at the end. One of our favorite things to do is at the end of the show, we're going to go over our favorite touchdown props. Those are usually the props that have, the best odds. They're usually not negative. They're usually positive odds that get you the best return. So we'll get to those at the end here. But we're probably going to dip into the Taysom Hill bucket once we get there. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens. We noted before, Titans have one of the worst secondaries, give up a ton of yards, give up a ton of touchdowns to the wide receivers. So we're looking at Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Willie Snead. Any interest in Willie Snead at 33.5? He's been playing some good football lately.
Everyone's betting down Marquise Brown. I'll take Mr. Reliable Willie Snead, man.
All right, let's look at his game logs the last few games. He's been coming on for
I can't trust Marquise Brown.
So the last 4 games, he's 64 yards, 37 yards, 106, and 32. Willie Snead's going to be on our website, right?
Willie Snead, baby.
33.5 yards. So he needs 34 to do it. He's been the leading receiver for them the last 3 or 4 weeks. And then the other guy here, I don't know if you guys knew, but Nick Boyle is out for the season. He was the leading tight end in terms of snaps for the Ravens. And as soon as he went down, Mark Andrews was getting pummeled with targets. And I don't really know who their number 2 tight end is. I think they did sign the guy from Seattle, Luke Wilson. So I'm assuming Mark Andrews is in for a heavy workload day at 45.5. I do think Mark Andrews does have some opportunity for success here. I just want to show you guys. And keep in mind, last weekend, that game was one of the weirdest rain games I've seen. And Lamar Jackson actually looked pretty good. I thought he handled the rain game pretty solidly. And you see in this game, they needed to throw the ball, sure, but 7 catches, 61 yards for Mark Andrews. I think this might be the start of a trend where we see Mark Andrews kind of step back into that top 2 or 3 tight end role. So at 45.5, kind of interested in Mark Andrews here.
Yeah, I like where you're cooking on that one. The Nick Boyle stat is
it's a huge one, man. Nick Boyle's been their leading tight end in snaps all season, and because Mark Andrews has he's kind of injury prone. They say. And so they let him kind of just be the slot tight end. But now you need Mark Andrews on the field a ton. So I think Tennessee, one of the worst secondaries, one of the worst defenses in all stats. I think you're going to see it's not going to surprise me if Mark Andrews has one of those big 7 for 82 and 2 touchdowns kind of game. So I'm curious to see what his touchdown odds are when we get to that later. But on the Tennessee Titans side of things, you got A.J. Brown at 53.5. You got Corey Davis, 44.5. Derrick Henry, 7.5. Jonnu Smith, 27.5. Any interest here in our Titans pass catchers?
Yeah, I think we should look at that injury report real quick for Tennessee. Makes me really nervous when you see a whole side of an offensive line be out for a week. That said, I do think the Ravens are going to put up points, and I do think the Titans are not going to be able to just lean on Derrick Henry like they want to.
So they've already ruled out Roger Saffold, offensive guard here. They have ruled out a bunch of other players here, but nothing on the offensive line. Wow, this is going to be a bad game for the Titans, man. Yeah. Jadeveon Clowney out. Adoree Jackson out. Adam Humphries out.
Their center.
So let's just see who else did practice on Friday here. You got the center not practicing all week. He's probably not playing. You want to see your guy get at least a limited practice in. So we're down a guard and we're down a center here. You see the offensive tackle, Dennis Kelly. He fully practiced on Friday, so he's probably going to be okay. But they're missing 40% of their offensive line. So you think about how they're going to try to beat the Ravens here. They want to run the football. I don't know if they're going to be able to very effectively. So this might be a game where if we like the Ravens offense, do we see Ryan Tannehill have to open it up with A.J. Brown and Corey Davis? Jonnu Smith maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to throw the ball. The question is, how much success are they going to have? A.J. Brown had his worst week of the season last week. I would never bet on A.J. Brown having 2 bad games in a row.
Right. And the Ravens, so I'm just looking at the fantasy points allowed here on the theFellowJGM. You see the green matchups here for the Titans, which is why we like the Ravens offense. Mm-hmm. The Ravens defense, one of the best teams against the quarterback here, 10th best. The running backs, they have been kind of been able to run on lately. So you could see Derrick Henry kind of smash his way to another 100 yards here, but I think it's going to be difficult, as we noted with the offensive line pieces missing. And you got the Ravens here, one of the best teams against the wide receivers. Let's just take a look and see, because I know Jimmy Smith was missing last time. And we got Jimmy Smith questionable. He logged 2 limited days here. Looks like they got a couple other guys that are
no. Brandon Williams is huge for Derrick Henry.
So that kind of negates the 2 injured players on the offensive line here. But look at Calais Campbell also did not practice all week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an even out kind of situation here. I keep going back to I think the Baltimore Ravens is probably going to have one of their best offensive outputs all season against the Titans. So if we're into the Ravens offense, I think they're going to have to open it up with Tannehill and A.J. Brown. Like we don't want to bet on A.J. Brown to have 2 bad weeks in a row, I don't think.
No, definitely not. I mean, I'm looking at what happened to the Ravens last week, and I'm thinking if Damian Harris had that much success, maybe Derrick Henry does. Maybe he does pop. I mean, 7.5 receiving yards for Henry. That's 1 catch. I'm interested in these.
I'm looking at the Ravens and who have they allowed some big days here. So A.J. Brown, 53.5. That's super low. They did allow Jarvis Landry to get 61. They allowed Brandon Cooks to hit 95. They allowed Randall Cobb to hit 59. Mecole Hardman, 81. Sammy Watkins, 62. Terry McLaurin with 118. T. Higgins, okay, so that's probably the best body comparison for A.J. Brown. He goes 4 for 62. Got Travis Fulgham going for 75 yards. That's probably more in the mold of a Corey Davis type there. John Hightower did get loose, but he's one of the 3rd or 4th receivers for the team. He had a 50-yard catch there. Juju Smith-Schuster, kind of in the mold of a Corey Davis as well with 67 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. hit 56. Zach Pascal hit 55. And Jacoby Myers hit 59. So at 53.5, we're seeing a lot of success for number 1 receivers against the Ravens.
Yeah.
Would you take the Corey Davis at 44.5?
Oh man, it's just Ryan Tannehill. He is so unpredictable. That's the biggest thing for me is at this point I don't trust Ryan Tannehill.
So I think my thinking for this one is to bet on the Ravens offense being successful. We love Willie Snead at 33.5. People are really betting into this Marquise Brown here at minus 143, so I think it's a good idea to pivot to Willie Snead and Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Are you feeling the Mark Andrews at all? Is that something that you want to double down with me on?
Yeah, I'm kind of into it. I'm kind of into the Mark Andrews. Depending on how many bets we're going to throw up on the site, might have to really kind of
consolidate a little bit,
feel some things. But I did check that Mark Andrews box.
Makes sense, and we'll think about it in a little bit. So, wow, we're going on 48 minutes, man. We got to pick up the pace a little bit. We'll start to hit some of our favorites here, and then we'll get into our favorite touchdown odds.
Yeah.
Eagles, Browns, anything in this game we think everyone's going to be under for the most part because we hated the passing totals here. Anything stick out?
Yeah, I mean, Miles Sanders at 18.5. That's just like something that like he had so many receiving yards last year. I just don't. They're just not throwing the ball right now. I don't know if that's going to change or not. So I'll probably look into that one a little bit.
Something to keep an eye on here.
Yeah, because other than that,
the weather's going to be so bad in here. I don't feel good about anyone's overs for the most part.
Right.
No one's got a really high under to bet on either. But Travis Fulgham had a really rough game last weekend at 50.5. I don't like betting under, so I think we're going to skip this game for now.
Yeah.
We'll keep it simple with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Washington football team. Terry McLaurin, 73.5. Is that happening?
What do you think?
I think so. And then you got J.D. McKissick chilling at 37.5. I know you love J.D. McKissick. He can do it.
Yeah. I love him. Just stealing all of Antonio Gibson's. Dude, if Antonio Gibson ever gets like
if he just gets half of those
20 to 30% of those, like he's a locked in RB1.
Right.
I think though when we're looking at this game, looking at the yardage, like the 73.5 is kind of high. Looking at these, but we like the Alex Smith over, so I think we just kind of go to the Alex Smith well this week. Yeah.
But it's Uncle Terry McLaurin, man. I just want to pull it up because I'm pretty sure he's been over 73.5, probably almost every game but like 2.
Terry's a wide receiver one, and people
playing
just need to
quarterback
accept
right
it.
Terry, I think is the future stud that no one's talking about. He's 4th in the league in yards at 787 total yards. Let's see here. So his line's 73.5. He hit 95, 115, 90, 74. One game here of 26 yards. I think he was paired up with Jalen Ramsey. If I remember correctly, this was the game where the quarterback situation just took a crap on them. And 118 against 118 against Jimmy Smith. 83 against the Browns here. 125. I'm assuming that's Patrick Peterson on him. And then 61 against the Eagles. So 2 games below 73.5. I like seeing something that I know I can rely on. And Terry McLaurin is probably one of my most favorite receivers to be watching in the game right now.
So then
I'm interested here.
Are you more interested in Terry's line or Alex Smith's line? If we're gonna,
put one on there, I'm gonna put Terry McLaurin on the list.
Do you double dip on that and just take them both?
We'll check it. We'll put it on the list and we'll talk about it after the show. But I have a hard time. Terry McLaurin's been 80% of the time he gets his over 73.5. That doesn't seem like a very high total to me. We know the Cincinnati Bengals are one of the worst defenses in the secondary. They've allowed the second most touchdowns to wide receivers. Terry McLaurin, he could do this in one play. He could do this in one little play here. So I'm interested in what he can do. But J.D. McKissic, let's just I'm just curious because he's going to get peppered with targets. We know this.
Right.
Well, let me click on McKissic. And I'm just curious how many games. So we know he's played with Alex Smith the last 2 games. So the last 2 games, 43 receiving yards, 65 receiving yards. These targets are really inefficient, though. That kind of makes me mad. It's 9 receptions for 14 targets, 7 for 15. That needs to be tightened up a little bit here, back to these 6 and 8s and these 7 and 8s.
It's too many. It's too many J.D. McKissic.
But at 37.5, J.D. McKissic has been over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So close here. 5 times in the last 6 games here. So it's rolling. It's kind of like the Terry McLaurin where it's been going for us. I'm just gonna check it for now. I don't feel great about it. This could be a game where we see Washington football team really run the ball and maybe not have to. Last week they were playing catch up, so I don't know if we're gonna see.
Basically, in losses coming, they're playing JD. When they're down, they're playing JD. They don't trust Antonio Gibson's pass pro, and it's Alex Smith, who you probably have to be a little bit extra cautious with. That's in the back of their minds for sure.
So I think I'm just okay with – I know Terry McLaurin's going to get his targets no matter what the game script is. So I think I'm okay with just kind of leaving it at that and move on quick to the Patriots and the Texans. Anybody here that you like? Jacoby Myers has been good to us at 58.5. The Texans receivers here, Brandon Cook, 62.5. Will Fuller, 60.5. Randall Cobb's 36.5. I kind of don't really feel anything about this game. I wouldn't mind moving on.
Yeah, we can move on from that.
Dolphins, Broncos, again, I don't really have any – they don't have a lot of Broncos receivers here at all. They just have Melvin Gordon here.
Yeah, I think they're waiting to hear about Mr. Drew Lock.
Yeah. So we'll kind of skip that one here. We did like the Justin Herbert potential for over on his yards. I think it was 277.5. So you got Keenan Allen. People are betting the hell out of that one at minus 143. Mike Williams, 52.5. He's just kind of too risky for me to bet. I think I need to see more consistency from him. And then you got the Jets receiver here, the lone Jets receiver, Denzel Mims, 45.5. But again, I think I'm kind of comfortable just skipping this game as a whole here. I don't really feel great about it.
Yeah, nothing there is going crazy to me either. Hunter Henry, 42.5 is a little high for what he's been doing.
Right. And he's at plus 105 though, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Packers Colts. We kind of talked about this one being maybe kind of a defensive struggle game. They do have Devontae Adams at 85.5. Jamal Williams, 11.5. That seems really low, but people are kind of onto that one there. Aaron Jones. I think if Green Bay is going to have success, it's going to be with Aaron Jones not running the ball, but catching the little screens here. But he's going to be matched up with Darius Leonard probably on a lot of those screens. So I don't really feel great about that. This game, I don't have a good read on it. I'm kind of nervous as the Packer guy. So
Nyheim Hines, baby, 27.5 yards. That's the one.
Every time he sucks us back in, he spits it back out.
It's just the recipe to beat the Packers is these little scat backs, man.
I need to see it, but if he's going to catch 4 balls, I'm interested in that. I'm going to check it just because I think is
like you said. I think more or less, we can stay away from this game. Just I think there's things we like more. Plus, as fans, I don't want to be no pain.
So I noticed in the Cowboys-Vikings game here, the leading They have the most yards for Dallas Cowboys receiver. It's going to be CeeDee Lamb at 60.5. Then it goes Amari Cooper, 57.5. You got Michael Gallup at 42.5. Any Cowboys receivers here going up against the Vikings secondary, which we've liked to pick on all year?
We know Andy Dalton's back, right, this week. Do we trust Andy Dalton back this week? I don't know.
I have good vibes for CeeDee Lamb. It seemed like Dalton had a really good connection with Lamb, but it seemed like he had pretty good connection with Michael Gallup too. I see Michael Gallup getting deep on a couple of plays here for 42.5. But again, it kind of goes back to what I said. I think I need to see more first before I accurately project it. It's a really good spot for the Cowboys receiver. So if you're feeling risky, Cooper, Gallup, and Lamb, all those numbers are kind of low. Lamb's at the high point, but Lamb sometimes just gets peppered with targets, and I just don't think. I mean, the Vikings with the slot cornerback, is that Cameron Dantzler, or what's his name?
I don't. Yeah,
it's the rookie receiver they drafted, Jeff Gladney. Is that it?
Yeah, Gladney. Yep.
Gladney. Okay, so rookie on rookie here. We could see CeeDee Lamb take advantage of him. He was drafted in the first round here, so he's got the juices to do it. But then on the Vikings side of things, people are just hitting the hell out again. Out of Justin Jefferson, 57.5 at minus 143. People not really feeling the Adam Thielen over at 60.5. But I don't really have any good reads on this. Maybe Dalvin Cook at 18.5. Maybe that's the play here.
Yeah, I was looking at both these running backs. I think Cowboys coming off a bye. You know what's been their recipe for success all these years? Give Zeke the ball, feed that man. So that's that's kind of interesting. It seems like a low line.
He has the lower line of the two. People have been betting it at minus 125, but I like both. I like the fact that Dalvin Cook's at minus 112. I like that one a lot too.
They're both. I like both those, to be honest with you.
Let's just check them. I think we're getting close to our 12 bets here, but we got 9, so we can do 3 more here. Let's move on to the Rams, Buccaneers. Do we want to just skip this one? We don't really. Games.
Let's breeze at these rushing yards here. Let's see if there's any good rushing lines for us.
All right, James Robinson, 63.5. We know he's probably going to get the ball at least 18 to 20 times. Not confident. Yeah. Let's skip it.
Yeah, I'm probably not touching those.
We can't even talk about the Falcons and Saints game right now.
No, not really. We just need to know more.
Keep an eye on Latavius Murray, though. Alvin Kamara dinged up with the foot injury. He missed practice a little bit this week. I've been telling people all week, Latavius Murray, if he's available, you should probably add him right now. Especially if you're going to get Latavius Murray paired with Taysom Hill the next 3 games, this could be a really good run-heavy offense. And I think as long as Kamara is dinged up with the foot right now, that's something to monitor. Latavius Murray could be a guy that helps get you to the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, do you see Sean Payton kind of trying to do what the Ravens do for success? Kind of set up these 2 running backs in the backfield, maybe shoot Kamara out wide, then do some crazy Taysom Hill run. It feels like a good recipe.
I haven't told anybody, but I've had kind of wild thoughts that the Saints offense is going to look like Lamar Jackson. And of course, Lamar Jackson's a much better thrower than Taysom Hill, but I don't think the comparisons are that far off. Mm-hmm. They should be looking to run the offense with this kind of basically a RPO offense where you don't know what's going to happen every play. And the Ravens already have a blueprint for it. So I think they've been watching a lot of tape on the Ravens offense. So run heavy offense. They're going to use 2 backs. They're going to run the ball. They're going to chuck the ball when they need to, but they're going to run the ball first. So Titans and the Ravens here. Derrick Henry, 86.5. People beating it up here at minus 134. I don't really see anything that I like that much.
I think Henry hits his 100 yards probably this week, but 134, I think we have lines that we like a little better.
Yeah, I feel comfortable elsewhere. Eagles, Browns, anything in this one, we should expect a lot of running in this one. But this is 2 of the better run defenses in the league.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of rushing for sure. I just don't. The line's there. 71.5. 65.5 for Sanders is probably just staying away.
Bengals, Washington football team. We talked about this maybe being an Antonio Gibson game. He's plus 1.
I like that.
I
like that.
Is this the one?
That's the one.
All right.
So I'll hit Gibson for 50 rushing yards this week. I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to pull away. Gibson those last couple of weeks just hasn't gotten the run just because they've been down early. If they can just stay close through the first half, he hits that line.
So I'm just quick looking up in terms of rushing yards, how the Bengals are doing here. I think teams have been kind of just hitting them really
6.
Okay, so this is the spot to do it. Let's just look quick and see. So the number was 48.5.
Yes.
They allowed Josh Kelly to get 60.
Yes.
Eckler, 84. Nick Chubb, 124. Kareem Hunt, 86. Sanders, 95. There's a lot of overs here. James Robinson, 75. Mark Dingram, 57. JT hit 60. Kareem Hunt, 76. Derrick Henry, 112.
McNichols had 49.
McNichols hit it. But then what's this James Conner, Benny Snell crap?
Yeah, that was a weird, what was that, a 4 or 5 touchdown game for?
That was just everything.
That's a weird game.
So Antonio Gibson, plus 124 odds. We like to
watch like that.
This game. That's probably the best odds that we've picked all day. So we're into Antonio Gibson here. I think I'm okay with just kind of breezing over the rest of these these rushing totals here. I did like Kalen Ballage at 53.5. I think he's going to have a huge game and a positive game script for the Chargers. I think Kalen Ballage 53.5 seems pretty doable.
No, yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm not touching anything in the Dolphins-Broncos game. I was a huge fan of Damian Harris this week, and then I opened this crap up and see minus 167.
Yeah. I think they like it as well.
He's going to hit it. He's going to hit it, folks. So if you want to win some returns, you could hit the Damian Harris here.
If your units are bigger, you might as well
just take the freebie there with Damian Harris. But again, Kalen Ballage, how many bets do I have here? I have 10 bets here. We're going to save those for the touchdowns here. I am in Kalen Ballage. It's a mini revenge game. He did play for the year. He's played for Adam Gase twice. Anthony Lynn has said he's the number 1 running back. So Kalen Ballage, you have my attention.
Yep.
Packers, Colts, these rushing numbers, man, these could be the ones to hit here. Jonathan Taylor only needs 35 yards.
These are so low, man.
Do it. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, like, these running backs, they all could hit. One of them could hit. There's going to be a guaranteed one hitting the over on these. It just don't know who. So,
again, I'm from Green Bay. We both lived in Green Bay. Jesse, you're a Peyton Manning guy, so you grew up loving the Colts. So for this one, we're kind of staying away. I do think the Colts can take advantage of the Packers running game. So if you want to invest in the Hines, the Jonathan Taylor, I think those are good. They're low numbers here. And I do expect the Colts to have a pretty efficient offense against the Packers D. Yeah,
they're basically saying that the Colts are going to have less than basically 100 yards rushing against the Packers, which we know they're going to hit that over. If you take like total Colts rushing yards, I would take the over on that for sure.
James Robinson hit that number. He hit about 100 yards all by himself last week. He did have 2 touchdowns called back. There should be some success for the Colts on the ground there. But looking at the Cowboys and the Vikings real quick, we were both fans of Cook and Ezekiel Elliott. They got Ezekiel Elliott at 59.5.
Dude, that's low.
Oh, what?
That seems way too low.
Are they going to get it going this week with Ezekiel Elliott?
I think they're going to. I mean, they have to be thinking. They got to be thinking.
Doesn't exist anymore.
If they're going to win games, it's going to be Zeke.
So hold on, we got Zeke. Hold on, we got Zeke at over 14.5. Let's just I think we're gonna take the rushing and receiving over here, right?
Yeah, yep, that's the one. Oh my God, what is this bogus? LaMichael Pirine?
You might be interested in LaMichael Pirine, boys.
I'd take the rushing yards if we're gonna go one of those. That's stupid. Oh.
Let's see here. Anything? Okay, guys. So we're really into Ezekiel Elliott bounce back game this weekend but 14.5 receiving yards, man. That's also super low.
It's too low.
All right. I think we might wait. We do like this is going to be what? 73.5 total yards.
Oh my God.
He needs 74 yards to hit the over so we're probably going to put his rushing and receiving over on the website here. I'm just going to click the 59.5 here because we'll come back to that. But we expect good things out of Zeke Elliott. Andy Dalton's again healthy. We should see the Cowboys bounce back after the bye week. Rams, Buccaneers. We don't really like to do Monday Night Football props on here, but anything Ronald Jones, I don't want to even bet on any of these.
No, it's Monday night.
It's a tough Monday night game. So we're going to get to our favorite part of the show, looking at the touchdown odds here. We like the touchdown odds because they give you your best odds to usually win some money here. So we do like the Steelers options. We kind of like to bet on players that are more than like 200 to 300, plus points here. So does anything stick out here on the Steelers side here, whether that's
210 on Claypool is kind of interesting.
That one's kind of fun there. I could see Keelan Cole at plus 250. He caught a touchdown and had a punt return last weekend. We did say that there's basically the mold of receivers that have had success against the Steelers have been these Keelan Cole and DJ Chark body types. So it wouldn't surprise me, but again, I'm not betting on Jake Luton to throw a touchdown. So Claypool's probably the one guy in the Steelers game here. Moving on down to the Falcons and the Saints. This is the extra spicy Stone Cold lock of the week, as our friend John Heffernan would say.
Shout out.
Even though it's not the best odds, plus 150, Taysom Hill scoring a touchdown, guys. I think you can – do we lock this in now? We don't even know if he's the starting quarterback.
Taysom, if they get to the goal line, I would expect at least two looks for Taysom Hill.
For him. And I didn't want to pull up here. I've been kind of saving this for the whole time here. Last year, I think this was the end of November, end of November. We see Saints and the Falcons played here. You see Taysom Hill got some run. He threw a pass 0 for 1, but on the running game here, he goes 2 for 33 and a touchdown. And then the mofo also catches 2 passes, 12 yards, and 1 touchdown. So 2 Taysom Hill touchdowns the last time he played the Falcons. Atlanta is one of the worst defenses in the league right now to quarterback points. Taysom Hill.
Even if he doesn't start, he is in on the high touch. He's getting the high value touches. So
they have plays designed for him to score touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So whether this needs to be a rushing or a receiving touchdown, obviously they don't count passing touchdowns. So the odds of him finding the end zone, I think, are very, very good this weekend at plus 150. What, you throw $25 at that, you're gonna get some really. You're gonna get, what is that? 25 minus 62. I can't do math.
$27.50.
No,
right? That's higher. No, $37.50.
50, dude. So Taysom Hill taking us to the bank. So yeah, that's looking pretty good for Taysom Hill odds there. Anything else in this Falcons game? Calvin Ridley at plus 150 also seems pretty low to me. I think this game to be kind of fun, there could be good touchdowns here. Even Julio Jones at plus 125. I think you could put, if you wanted to put money on both Julio and Ridley, one of them's going to hit. You're going to make money off one of those guys.
Right. I would agree with that thought. One of them will score.
One of them is going to hit. And even the odds of them both hitting, pretty good. Pretty good. Titans and the Ravens here. Lamar Jackson plus 120 to rush for a touchdown. I like Mark Andrews to score a touchdown this weekend, but plus 105 doesn't really encourage me to do so.
No, definitely not.
65. Are you going with our boy Sweet William Snead here?
I don't think so.
60. No, thank you. I don't feel comfortable betting on touchdowns in this one. If I had to pick one, of course, Derrick Henry at minus 143. But I feel like it's a Mark Andrews week. I'd rather bet on Taysom Hill to score a touchdown or Calvin Ridley. Eagles, Browns, no thanks.
Yeah, Bengals, probably not.
Football team. Scary Terry McLaurin plus 150. If we like Taysom Hill at plus 150, does this guy have our attention?
He's got our attention.
I don't think he's scored in the last couple games. Let me just double check on Terry. So he might be due for one of those big ones.
He's due.
So he didn't score last weekend, but with Alex Smith at quarterback, he goes 7 for 115 against the Giants, and he gets the touchdown. Did catch a touchdown against Dallas the week before too. So I could see him find himself in the end zone at plus 150. I'm interested a little bit here. Nobody else really sticks out. Tyler Boyd plus 200. Higgins has been hot lately, but plus 180. The Washington football team is the second best against wide receivers and PPR points, so I'm kind of fading the whole Bengals offense this week.
Yeah, Burrow, probably only 1 touchdown this week. Maybe gets the 2 touchdowns, but probably just 1. So
Patriots, Texans, is it a Damian Harris game? Or are you just taking the Cam Newton minus 139? Or are we just skipping this whole thing together?
Damian Harris, 165. There's some intrigue there, but I think I still like Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Cam Newton's kind of in the way there.
Yep.
Dolphins, Broncos, is it Salvon Ahmed plus 160?
It's not a bad line.
That works, but again, give me Taysom Hill at plus 150 instead. I'd rather double dip into that.
Yep.
Broncos Dolphins is probably one of the least exciting games of the weekend. They like Keenan Allen's odds to score here, but I like Kalen Ballage to score plus 140 against his former boss.
140 is a nice line.
140 could be working for us here with Kalen Ballage. I think he scored in the last 2 games as well. That might be incorrect. Let me double check real quick. But he's actually I was a Kalen Ballage hater for the last 2 years, but the last 2 weeks he's actually looked pretty solid here. So I'm just looking for his numbers here. I don't see him.
No, he's
Might be on the next page.
he's a second pager. There he is.
The Balaj. So the last 2 games here, 68 yards, 34 receiving. So no touchdown last weekend. He did find the end zone against the Raiders. Maybe we find him in the end zone this week.
There's a shot.
Nothing else really sticks out here.
No.
Nothing else really sticks out for me there. Packers, Colts, who's scoring touchdowns? Devontae Adams, the minus 134. Aaron Jones, 139. They like these guys quite a bit here. But Naheem Hines, where's he at? Plus 125.
That seems too
People are into it now.
too high. Yeah, people are on that.
I think I got to skip this one, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Trey Burton is pretty. They use him around the. Jamal Williams is interesting.
If you got big balls, you go with Mercedes Lewis here for plus 800.
If they didn't hit him last week, it's not happening.
Well, no.
They wanted to.
Rodgers said on his touchdown run, that play was going to Mercedes Lewis.
Yep.
Going to lose touchdown, but they had him kind of double teamed, and that's what allowed Rodgers to scoot into the end zone on his run. So they do call Mercedes Lewis's number towards the goal line. Looking at Cowboys-Vikings, Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott are both favored to score here. You got Thielen and Justin Jefferson, the next best odds. Do we like any of the Cowboys receivers? Plus 200 for Cooper, 250 for Lamb, 325 for Gallup. One of them is scoring, and maybe years, but Gallup 325. That's
325 on Gallup's kind of a nice spicy TD lock of the week.
That one might make the website. I kind of think that one could be fun. Are you? I don't know. Ezekiel Elliott at minus 106 though.
He's probably scoring.
That's probably going to happen. I think I'd be more, as much as I like the plus 325 for Gallup, I think Ezekiel Elliott scoring. So throwing some money on that one, I think could be pretty healthy. Even though it's a negative number, I mean, what, you put $20 on that, you're winning 19.
Feel good about that.
It's not a risky bet, but it might make our touchdown prop bet. We might have to change our the fine print on what we do there. But,
subject to change.
I'm open to the Cowboys receivers having success. I think we just maybe need to wait and see, but it's a smash spot against the Vikings. If you're feeling risky, Michael Gallup plus 325. It's been a while since he scored. CeeDee Lamb plus 250. He's one of Andy Dalton's favorite quick targets. Something to think about if you're into the Cowboys there. Chiefs Raiders. Hold on. Did they? I didn't see any of those rushing or receiving.
They usually do the touchdown props before anything. I didn't see any other lines.
So they love Kelsey, Tyreek, Josh Jacobs, and Clyde Edwards, all to score a touchdown. Darren Waller at plus 145. Mecole Hardman's out in this one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him activated off the COVID list, so I think it's going to be Sammy Watkins plus 180. I don't feel great about it.
Demarcus Robinson 225.
Scoring TDs, man. He's got, I think, 3 in the last 2 or 3 games.
He's been tossing up.
I think we'll ignore that game. I think we got enough here.
Yeah.
For the people. All the touchdowns for Tampa Bay and the Rams are all plus.
That's interesting.
So some good odds there. We'll kind of look to that later. But I don't know, man. Any other parting thoughts or any games that you're most excited to watch this weekend or have good feelings about?
Yeah, I mean, I like the games. There's a lot of fun games this week. There should be some points scored. It should be a fun fantasy week. I feel like we've had a couple duds here. I think we're due for a big eruption. Falcons Saints should be fun. Titans Ravens is a fun playoff potential there. One of those teams, they're both desperate for wins, at this point.
As far as the weekly schedule, it's week 11. This has been my favorite entire weekend slate of the whole season. You have a lot of interesting matchups. You got Atlanta and New Orleans. Atlanta's playing good. We got this Taysom Hill thread now. That's kind of fun. You got Washington football team playing pretty good with Alex Smith against Joe Burrow. The Lions and the Carolina Panthers. I was kind of upset that we didn't see any receiving or rushing in that one because we missed out on DeAndre Swift and Christian McCaffrey's smash opportunities. That one would have been really fun there. You got Pittsburgh going for more undefeatedness there. Tennessee and Baltimore. That's the game I think that you have to watch at noon, even though I think for our area we're going to get the Falcons and the Saints here, so I'm okay with that. But Tennessee, Baltimore, I think that one's got some really fun potential there. And then, of course, America's game of the week. Green Bay Packers at the Colts.
Let's go.
Keep an eye on the Dallas and Minnesota game. I think that one's going to get kind of out of hand with the points.
Yeah, let's go. Green Bay, Indy.
And then it's all capped off. We get Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
John Gruden. That one, Raiders took him to the woodshed last time.
KC's going to get redemption on that one, huh?
I would assume so, but man, you get Josh Jacobs rolling and they get the Raiders offense and good game scripts. That's kind of hard to beat. You know Josh Jacobs is going to get the ball, but you still can't really stop him. And then if they do, they're just going to roll out to Darren Waller, and now they got Henry Ruggs, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards is back. Like, they have the pieces that are hard to predict what's going to happen. So I think you could see a pretty fun game from the Raiders there. And then the Rams, Tampa Bay, both those teams are in the wild card spots. Like the NFC playoff, like my whole thing this week has been the playoff races in both conferences are really fun to watch right now. You have on the AFC side, you have 9 teams, 6 or 3 or better, and then the Patriots lingering at 4 and 5. They're probably going to be 5 and 5 after this one, and not too far away from the wild card spot there. And then in the NFC spot here, Chicago Bears not playing this weekend. Minnesota can kind of sneak into this at 5 and 5. Detroit Lions, we don't really feel great about, but I don't know. There's a lot of moving here in 5, 6, and 7 spots this weekend, and maybe Minnesota kind of throws their name back into the hat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good week. I mean, you can kind of see these playoff pictures brewing. The 6 and 3 teams. I mean, we have a lot of disparity. The middle class in the NFL is gone, but the football is still good.
And Thanksgiving week next weekend, it's going to be fun. I don't know if you're going to be available next Saturday to do it or what you got going on, but we did have some people asking for this video in the chat rooms this weekend. So I think if we can put up some good numbers this week and have some success with the prop bets, I think we'll have some more people kind of hanging out next weekend. But I don't know, man. Any other final thoughts on tonight's show?
No, absolutely. It was a good one. It should be a good week. Everybody have a safe Thanksgiving coming up. And when you're hungover on Saturday morning, hit us up because we'll probably be doing another one of these. Yep. Hopefully, winning some money.
I'll be after we end the show here. We're going to probably enter some of those into the fantasyfellowship.com link in the description below to get to that, or just go to the fantasyfellowship.com, click on the player prop bets on the homepage, and that should get you everything you need to win some money this weekend. So again, for Jesse, you can follow him on Twitter at theFellowJGM. I am theFellowKGB on Twitter as well. Thank you so much for your time. And good luck this weekend. We'll see you in another video. Peace.